Greetings. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 regular Piqua City Commission meeting. We'll start by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Foat,
Here.
Commissioner Pearson,
Here.
Commissioner Hines,
Here.
Commissioner Grissom.
Here.
Well, it looks tonight like we've got a short agenda, but we'll start with the consent agenda.
One item on the agenda tonight, the approval of the minutes from the May 19, 2020 regular Piqua City Commission meeting.
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next to new business, we'll start with resolution number R-85-20.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the Ohio Emergency Management Agency, Ohio EMA, for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program for improvements to the Piqua Water Supply Lake System.
Water Superintendent Don Statler will provide the staff report.
Yes, good evening. For some time now, we have been working towards the hydraulic improvements. We have been working and trying to get funding to assist us with the design and planning, preliminary planning on this project. This is an opportunity came our way from Miami County EMA. We had applied in the past and unfortunately had not been able to acquire this. This time we went forward with having our project in the design phases, and we're successful in being offered this grant opportunity. We are currently have about 12 different possibilities on what we will need to do or work with on the system. This monies will go toward helping us understand the feasibility, cost effectiveness of each one of the alternatives, and help us in working toward also reclassifying the dam, since Commission assisted in getting us the property that we needed to be able to accomplish that. This, in fact, will allow us to reduce the classification of the Swift Run Lake Dam, and that in turn only requires us to pass 50% of a maximum rain event. So with that, we are very pleased to be moving toward getting a solution in this study to continue to find out which is our best alternative.
As we've stated previously, the ramifications of not going forward with this is the fact if we are not able to reduce the classification of the dam, then we could be subject to having to make improvements like widening and lengthening the dam at a cost of millions of dollars. So we're very thankful that we're able to get the funding to proceed to look at all those angles to make sure that we can get the classification of the dam reduced. So,
Any questions from Commission?
So is this strictly the dam over by Swift Run? Is that the only one that we're looking at this time?
At this time, this is the one we're working most diligently on, as the reclassification is very critical. But our study has, with Stantec, our consultant, has involved the entire 2.2 miles of levee and all three lakes in the hydraulic system.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No further questions. I will take a motion.
I make a motion, we approve resolution number R-85-20.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, on to resolution number R-86-20.
A resolution fixing the time and place for a public hearing on the proposed city tax budget for Miami County for the calendar year 2021 and draft appropriation ordinance.
Ms. Holtzapfel will provide the staff report.
Thank you. This is a routine resolution that comes before commission every year. The city of Piqua is required by the state of Ohio to provide a preliminary 2021 tax budget to Miami County by mid-July. Today, we're setting the commission meeting July 7th of 2021 at Tuesday, July 7th, 2020 at 6 p.m. as a public hearing for you all to review and pass that tax budget. And I'd like to note that this is not our budget process. This is just a preliminary tax budget that the county needs in order for them to supply their budget to the state. So our normal process will be in place towards the end of the year.
Any questions from the commission?
That's just the time of our regular commission meeting, correct?
Yes.
And we're just adding that as a part of it? Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good to me. No other questions. I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number R-86-20.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the public comment section of our meeting. And I have 4 questions that have been submitted. The first question is from Jamie Smith, 511 New Street in Piqua. She states, I would like to address the City of Piqua utilities for overcharging on bills. I was charged a whole month of base pay for 1 week of moving into my house, and when I called to get an explanation of it, I'm told that's the way it is. It's not right, and several people have experienced this. I have the bill with no reading but charges for a month from May 1st to May 7th. This is not right. Please help me on this, as I have not paid it yet and don't feel I should pay for what I should pay for what I've used for a week. All right. Can you enlighten us, ma'am?
Yes. The amount of base fees help cover all fixed costs. And if you recall, including in those base fees are units of water and sewage that are part of that base fee, as well as we have reconnection charges or setup charges as the accounts are established. So that goes with every customer and is not prorated by month depending on days. So that's why she was charged that amount for those number of
I've had
days.
several other people ask me the exact same thing. I had a guy last night, and I had to explain to him how the base fees work. So unfortunately, I'd like to help somebody in this situation, but the explanation, that's the way it is, isn't an explanation. What you just said was an explanation, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, and Jamie, I'm sorry you feel that it's unfair, but that's how the system we have adopted works in the city of Piqua. So, but if you still have a dispute, please feel free to come in or call and discuss it with the city manager next. You willing to talk to her about it? You can't say any more than what we just
I
said, though,
can
right?
explain it again.
Yeah,
the same way.
there you go. So I appreciate it. I'm sorry. But thank you for your question. All right. Next is a question from Alicia Richardson, 630 Manier Avenue. She goes, I would like to know what it will take to get our city of Piqua to declare racism a public health crisis. What are the steps we need to take in getting this rolling? I see the state is discussing of doing this, but change starts at home. And she might be right about that. What do you know about this, sir?
I do know that the state and Franklin County are looking at declaring racism as a public health crisis. I don't know the details or what that means or anything because it has not been adopted, but we certainly will look at what they do with that and advise you of it when we find that information out.
Yeah, and our health department will look into that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm in favor of something along that lines. I don't see where that would be a problem. I'd like to learn more about it myself, so information is power. So any other comments from the commission about this?
Yeah, I would just say, I think racism in general is something that we really need to look at. And obviously with what's going on nationally, but locally as well. I think, yesterday was really the time to look at it. So I think however proactive we can be as a commission for our city and to set an example in that
Yes.
line, I think is very important. So I'm glad to see that there is some discussion around it.
Yes. Yeah, me too.
In some ways, many of us are shocked that this is where we are as a country because we know we're better than
We are
this.
better than this, yes.
But it is what it is. So I could agree.
I thank you for your comment. Anybody else?
I was just gonna say, I'd be curious, if you could please keep us updated on what they come across, because like you said, what does that mean? How do you do that? And I like how she stated, it starts at home. So,
She's right, yeah.
how could Piqua lead the way in some of those?
Yeah.
Because from the protests this weekend, you could clearly see the individuals in Piqua definitely have a good mind and how to move forward.
Yeah, very peaceful protest. I loved it, so. Alicia, we're gonna look into this, and it seems like we all want to get the information, and it's something that we're looking at possibly doing, so thank you for your question. The next question comes from Jeffrey Cost, 311 Manning Street. He states, I'm getting sick and tired of trucks using the engine brake coming off of the East Dash Street Bridge. Why is there a sign on Covington Avenue coming down the hill if there's one there? Why can't we get one coming off of the East Dash Street Bridge? And I'm getting sick and tired of people at 223 Manning Street. They have a loud racing car and they sit out back and in their garage and they keep revving it up. It's getting old, and we have called the cops, and I'm about to move out of the city if something isn't done. I know I've sent you several of his complaints about this.
Well,
Is there a sign on East Dash?
I thought there was.
I did too.
With all the construction that has gone out there, it may be gone and wasn't put back up. We will check it and get one up on that side. So I thought we had both on the east and west sides to begin with, but there was a lot of construction and it may not have gotten put back up. So we'll check it and get one
Yeah,
up.
if there's no sign out there, Mr. Cost will take care of that. And you heard it here. You heard it straight from the city manager as well.
As far as loud noise goes, calling the police.
Call it in.
You have to call the police and
Every time.
they have to hear it and so forth for it something to be done.
And unfortunately, I can tell you from personal experience going out on those calls, we have to sit and listen to it ourselves as police officers, and then we can act on it. If you call us and we go there and there's nothing going on, then we can't do any, the police can't do anything about it. So just keep calling, and law of averages says they're going to get caught at some point in time. The last question is from Jay Roman, 406 West High Street. Hello, everyone. I would like to say thank you to Mayor Lee for his leadership at the protest last weekend. I'm so proud he's our mayor, and that while others watched from a bench far away, he was in the middle of it with us. Thank you also to the Piqua Police Department for supporting the cause and being a shining example as always. Finally, I think it's time these meetings reopen to the public in some form. Now is not the time for further separation of government and citizen. We have to come together immediately. All right. Well, on that note, I'd like to say thank you for the compliment. The police department did a wonderful job. I was very, very happy with them and how they interacted and took care of the people who came for the walk. And getting these meetings back together, we are still limited by the governor. When that is lifted, I would love to get the meetings back together. We can't even have our clerk. There's a picture of our clerk. I don't know why it's sitting up here, but it was sitting up here. But she can't even come because we have to limit the meetings to 10. So we miss our clerk, Karen Jenkins. So, but as soon as we could have the meetings, your voices are welcome. We want everybody's opinion and everybody's participation. One thing I learned from that meeting on Sunday when they came is that people want to now participate as a result of all the stuff that's going on. And so our meetings might be bigger, and that's good, because the more participation, the more ownership identification people have with their community. And that leads me to Larry Hamilton, and I'll talk about him a little later. So, but did they say anything about when they're prospectively opening up the meetings?
No, it wasn't mentioned today in the governor's briefing, so we expect it's still in force. The mass gathering is still in force. The meetings are limited to 10 people, so.
Not much we can do.
10 people in here tonight.
Exactly. So we can only do, and our clerk is with us in spirit. So.
Evidently in picture.
It was a great picture. So, all right. City manager's report.
Just one thing to mention tonight, supposed to be at 6 o'clock tonight, the Main and High Traffic Calming Project is underway. So they'll probably be working till 2 o'clock in the morning, and then it should be open first thing tomorrow morning. So it should look a little different tomorrow, and I'm going by after the meeting to see how it's going. So that's underway tonight.
Great.
Supposed to be.
Great. Okay. Well, let's start with Commissioner Hines. She has a meeting that she has to get to, so let's start with her.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. I do also want to say thank you for your leadership over this past weekend. I think it is timely that you are in the position that you are in, and I, as one, am very thankful for that with your leadership and what you bring to the table, not only as a retired police officer, but as an African American here in our community. So thank you for all that you are doing for us. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
In light of what has been going on in our community, state, country, world, I just wanted to lift up a quote that I read this week from Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II, because I think it speaks to what is going on. And there's a lot of positive things that can happen during this time. And as we know, there's a lot of negative things that can happen during this time. We have seen the best of our country, and we have seen the worst of our country over these past days and weeks. But this is what Reverend Dr. Barber says. When we hear the cries of those who are mourning, we know America needs nothing less than a third Reconstruction. Mourning means that people still believe things can change. You don't protest what you believe is unchangeable. You destroy it. Protest is hope. The hope is in the morning, and it is deep. We must cry out with all who hunger for justice. And we are seeing public mourning in our country right now. We saw it within our community this past weekend. And there is hope in the morning. There is hope in the action that is being taken place. So unfortunately, I was not able to be there Sunday evening. I wish I could. I had a previous engagement that I had to be at. But I am thankful for the hope that our citizens were able to bring forth that evening for the peaceful demonstration, the peaceful reminder to us about the fact that Black lives do matter. And we as a country have got to remember that, and we have, as a community have got to remember that as well. So I commend those who organized it, and thank you for leading the way for our community, but also our county and our state and world as well. So the other thing I will say that, for those of us who are white, this is the time for us to sit back and really listen. Because we have been talking way too long. So it's time for us to listen to our African American brothers and sisters to really understand the pain and what they have gone through. And that's all my comments.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I agree with your thoughts and wholeheartedly support them. Mr. Grissom, Commissioner Grissom.
Thank you. The main thing I want to bring up on the agenda was 4th of July. I know it's something that's rapidly approaching. To be honest, myself, I was kind of torn about it, kind of thinking, especially with everything going on. Not just with recent events, but with COVID, the governor's orders and some of those. But it is an outdoor type thing. I really wanted to see if there's any kind of creativity, because I reached out to Jay with Watch Piqua and asked if he could just kind of put a survey out there. I was really curious to see what the public's thoughts were going to be on it, because I know we've gotten pros and cons of people being outside, interacting, but I was really shocked to see there was an overwhelmingly positive response for wanting to hold such an event. I know a lot of cities locally have closed or already canceled them. We haven't got a full response, correct, from the governor on whether these types of events are even be allowed.
We have not, currently, festivals are not permitted. Outdoor or any type of mass gatherings are not permitted at this point. So we were hoping that may be addressed this week, but it has not been yet.
Is there any way we can contact the governor? And I'd gladly contact him and say, hey, what's up with this?
Well, I think a lot of people have. I mean, you're certainly welcome to contact me.
I will.
But,
I mean, I
that's-
know I'm getting inundated with a lot of requests, and I'm in agreement. I would like to see something go on where we could socially distance, but I know the time's getting short for us to try and
It's-
organize something
yeah,
like
it's
that.
becoming very difficult to move forward, especially with the festival part. One of the thoughts is to reschedule the fireworks maybe to Labor Day. So that's one of the alternatives that we have, but, I can't give you an answer other than
Because you don't have an answer from the
the
state.
orders are what they are right now, and that's
Yep.
all I can tell you at this point.
And I appreciate. Anybody else have a comment on
So is it,
4th of July?
is there any possibilities that with the orders, I mean, are they do they spell out like 4th of July type activities? Because I know everything's kind of conflicting in some when it comes to
Have fairs,
restaurants
but-
opening. You can have certain wedding venues, you can do certain things. I know outdoors, I heard a lot of comments about having it at Fountain Park, and where I don't know if you can spread it out. I've seen other places look at, can you do drive-in type deals, where you do still say segregate within your family and your vehicle. I don't know, is there any ways that we can look
Well,
at or
the
get
way,
creative
the way it
with
works is the orders are written, and they specifically say you can't do certain things. And what they've been doing is releasing certain type of events that you can have. So until they actually release it, we are bound by those orders. Again, I'm pretty sure it's past time. The festival itself, which takes place in the downtown area, we're probably not going to be able to do that at all, but the fireworks were what we were kind of waiting on to see, if they were going to release that type of event. So that's the reason we haven't made any decision, because we were waiting on to see what it is. But the bottom line is, we get too far into this time-wise, it might be best just to reschedule it at another time. So that's one of the alternatives that we have.
And then just, I just want to ask, so like if you were to try to plan for something now, and if it would be more at the vendor's loss, would there be any stake to the city, like if we had to cancel anything last minute? Because I know a lot of the orders I've seen are pushed till the end of June, 1st of July, and that is very short notice
Yeah.
for anybody to
One of
cancel an
the
event.
one of the things that's required with our festival is we have to guarantee the vendors payments ahead of time, and we don't want to do that because it's very likely that we wouldn't recover those funds. So that's part of what they require, is 50% down on the event. So paying them at this point is where we're at risk. So, the best hope is something happens with the fireworks. That's kind of what we're holding out for at this point.
So,
Wish I had better news, but that's just what we're working under right now.
no, I appreciate
Until
that.
they
And
release that.
I'd like to continue some of that discussion, just see what some of our options, and see what we could possibly do, and if it is better to postpone it, because one, I don't want vendors to be out, and
Yeah.
because
Right.
if they make this purchase, even if they're paid 50%, and you make a lot of person inventory, you don't want them being out, because I definitely want to support some of those local businesses, but at the same time, I really like the idea, and especially this time and age, celebrating our independence, when we should be, and was kind of the national holiday too. So I do appreciate the comments and insight. I know we can't go against governor's orders, but what are our options and what can we do at this late in the game? Thank you.
Well, we're watching it every day to see.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What would be the drop dead date on for getting the fireworks up and running? You know, are we talking like a 2-week window out on being able to secure the vendors for that, or what would
Yeah,
that
one of
look
the things
like?
we have to do is work with the fireworks company to see their availability, what they will, how far they will wait. That's because they have to procure their fireworks too, so they want to make sure they don't have any losses and have to do it. So it's a difficult thing to coordinate with everyone so they don't lose.
Okay. Any other? you have
I
any
just wanted to
questions?
say with the farmer's market, they've got many concessions. In fact, they've increased the number of concessions. And with the 4th of July celebration, there are usually concessions. There's usually a band. I understand that that's not going to happen, but it's just difficult to
Farmers
understand.
markets were specifically allowed. It's one of those things that they said you can do farmers markets. You still have to do distancing supposedly.
Right.
But it's one of those
Yeah.
things where you have,
So,
It's,
yeah. It's confusing and
It is.
we're trying to deal with all of it.
it is.
well, we appreciate you doing that and
Thank
trying
you.
to figure it out. Anything else, Commissioner Grissom?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Pearson?
Thank you. There have been several inquiries about whether or not our parks are open.
Yeah.
And they are open, but the playgrounds remain closed.
It's one of those things that parks were never closed, but playground equipment was, and it's still closed. It's one of the things that they specifically have identified as remaining closed. Now, we have signs up
Yeah.
that say they're closed, and that's about all we can do. We did put tape one time, but that quickly disappears, so.
So with that, then, because I know I saw
Signs are
questions
still up,
about.
though.
The signs are up.
Yeah, and people tell me the signs are up, but kids are still hopping on it and tearing the tape down, just like you said.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You're fine, because the questions I know I've seen in were the skate park. So is that considered a park and it's open?
Skate park is supposedly closed. The
Okay.
sign's up that it's closed.
Okay, because I know there's been some confusion there.
Now, are we going out and arresting people?
No.
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 Understood.
Well, and I think that's what's so hard is they are closed, but, you know, I've heard comments in my neighborhood, because we have a neighborhood park in our neighborhood, that parents are having a hard time telling their kids you can't play on the playground, and then they drive by and kids are on the playground.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it's up to everybody to monitor and enforce that with their kids.
We have to do what we're ordered to do,
Yep,
and we're trying to do it the best we can
Yeah.
yep.
without interfering in people's daily lives. And that's about all I should say at this point.
Thank you.
We've also had folks call in about the awful dead-looking plants that are growing, or not growing, on Route 36, the slopes. They do look like sticks, but if you get up on the slope and you look at them closely, they actually grow up from the bottom.
Well, that's good
So
to know. Yeah,
They,
yeah.
they are growing, so give them some more time and.
Yeah, that was
You're
a,
gonna
that was
see
a
green.
project by the Friends of the Piqua Parks. It was completely done, paid for, installed, everything through them, so we appreciate.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
very good news that the plants aren't dead.
They are not dead,
Good.
in spite of what everybody thinks. Also, coming up, the CSX transportation, folks are going to be beginning work on the railroad crossings at Statler Road and North County Road 25A from June 8th to June 14th, and those will be closed, correct?
Yes, we only allow them to close one crossing at a time.
Okay.
And so that will be closed for a period of time, and then the other one on Garbury will be closed for a period of time.
Okay, good, all right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Commissioner Foat?
I've got a few things. Just want to follow up about some conversations that I had sparked, I want to say about a month ago. We now have a time and date scheduled for the medical marijuana meeting. That will be coming out via Zoom. It's now scheduled for June the 17th. We had some malfunctions in that and not getting a public notice out soon enough for the very first one. So apologize about that, but follow up. We do have one scheduled on the 17th at 6, providing that everybody's available for that. The urban chicken conversation that I brought up, we will be looking to align that sometime in July from what I just read in the emails just a little while ago prior to coming in. So I want to thank the city for being diligently looking at everybody's schedules, getting those scheduled for us. I know that's a task at hand right now with our times that we're in, getting Zoom meetings set up for all the departments. So greatly appreciate the city staff supporting all this.
We call it herding cats.
Understood. Talking about green areas and parks in the city, the Shawnee green area, just last week I had a chance to meet with Brian Brookhart out on East Main in regards to the property. If you're coming into Shawnee, the green property that's on the south side right there, they're going to be looking at trying to get that dressed up for us out there, removing some of the large rocks that are up underneath trees and just kind of flattening the landscape out there so we can make it look better. Don't have a scheduled timeline for that. It's got to be according to the schedule that the city can get put together for that. So once again, I appreciate Brian coming out there and meeting me there so we could approach that and kind of talk about the presentation of that area. Two subjects to bring up. 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now, I had a business owner reach out to me that was affected by the COVID-19 crisis that was actually shut down for electric bills. They're questioning the utilities and base rates and understanding that these are businesses that were affected and are still closed down because they feel that they cannot open up underneath the current COVID guidelines. I think we need to spark a conversation in regards to what can we do to support our businesses that have been established with us for some time now. I think it's very important, and you know, I've talked to a lot of people about this. Bringing businesses in is a great aspect that the city of Piqua owns, and we continue to preach on that and do that. The next step to that is appreciating the businesses that are here and trying to help them out as much as we can. Whether it be, I don't even know what the plan would be and how to do something like that. But, you know, sparking a conversation for that is one thing. And then this past week, again, I was out in the community and talking with some residents that are inside of my ward. And it come out that there are some water issues in the alleyways. And one thing that we need to look at there, and I know this will definitely spark a conversation, but conversations are good because we learn from them. Going up and down the alleys with our refuge trucks right now. As the alleys were built, they were not intended, from my understanding, to have trash receptacle trucks on there. And when you put a 6-ton truck on those alleys that are constantly going and stopping, you're going to have to keep on repairing those alleys. So I question myself when it comes down to the pavement part of things, when we talk about our pavement budgets, how much money are we spending on doing alley work year after year after year because we're putting trucks that are on those alleys that don't belong there? And understanding that this could bring a change to the city as we move forward and technology comes on with bigger trash trucks coming into the fleet, hopefully at some time, that are automated. Those trucks become heavier. So I think a change will have to come at some point in time to pull trash receptacles from the alleyways and get them back out on the main roads. And that's just, you know, it's food for thought right now. And I know not every alley.
Was that ever planned to put the trash cans in the front when we get the trash trucks with the arms? Was that part of the plan?
Well, I think one of the things that we've mentioned is the fact that some of those automated trucks may not fit down alleys.
So that is.
So it's worth consideration of discussion.
Very good. I agree.
And that's, that's where I'm going with that. We talk about redoing our infrastructure all the time, and paving comes up year after year after year. And I would be kind of curious as to what kind, out of the budget for paving, how much of that money is actually allocated to alleys to where we could allocate that to our actual main roads and doing better work on our main intersections that could use it on a more regular basis.
I guess the conversation is worth having. Is it more cost effective to fix the alleys year after year, or have the dump trucks pick up from the street, and then putting that money, like you just said, to the streets repair, and we can do more streets as opposed to the alleys? It's worth a conversation, and it sounds like it was planned on being had at some point anyways, right?
Yes, it's something that's going to have to eventually be looked at.
So put a pin in it. That's something that needs to be talked about. All right, appreciate that. Anything else?
No, just, I'm gonna reiterate, I'm gonna go back to the electric bill for the businesses. I think coming up with a plan sometime in the near future, as we don't know how far this is gonna go on for those businesses. Even if it's something that's retroactive, if it can be done that way, that would be up to the commission to decide, I guess, along with working with our city staff and Gary's staff, and trying to put a plan together and make sure that everything's dotted and crossed accordingly.
I want to support the business. That's, just like you said, bringing business here is important, but keeping them here and supporting them in light of these unusual circumstances. I mean, it's not every year you have a pandemic. So we need to support them as well. So we'll see what we can come up with. It's not a bad idea.
Thank you.
All right. All right, for my report, I want to thank everybody that came down to the walk on Sunday. It was enlightening. I had 3 of my oldest kids came down there with me. They're biracial kids, but they identify with their dad, and they were very, very proud to be there and a part of it. They feel with George Floyd and his family, and they feel all of the wrongness in that. And if there's ever come a time for the city to come together and accept its ownership identity, and for 30 years, Larry Hamilton's been preaching this, and now people are starting to understand. We have he always came at a historical reference point with the Randolph slaves and stuff, but it's all the same. I mean, we have to accept all people in this community, and the people that came out Sunday accepted all people. I understand from a police perspective that police lives matter, but if the police aren't doing their jobs and they're not doing it the right way, they have to be held accountable, and these police will be held accountable. I mean, poor tactics, I don't know what it was. That man did not have to die. But the bottom line with this whole thing is that, to me, all lives do matter, but they won't matter, and you can't say all until you include black lives. And so black lives matter as well. And yes, this is coming from a black man. And so, it sounds normal. What else am I supposed to say? What I'm telling you is that if you're white, like Commissioner Hines said, it should matter to you as well. If you're Indian, if you're Hispanic, whatever, it should matter. And I think it does. And a good representation from the citizens of Piqua that came out and had a peaceful walk from the gazebo to the city building here and then back. And the only problem that I saw, and it wasn't with the people that walked. They did a great job. Charlene Blair organized it. She did a great job. I loved it. It was from people passing by yelling Trump 2020 and yelling names at some of the people that were there. But they rose above that, and they just kept on. I have no problem with that. I thought that was great. So thanks to all the people that came down. I know Sydney had their vigil, and Troy had one last night. And Troy had just a little hiccup, but it was peaceful. People came together. I saw officers kneeling. I saw citizens hugging the police. That's what you want. That's a community, you know. So, and we had the same. Our officers here were out, present, talking to, walking with the citizens. They did a great job. I am proud to say that I worked at the Piqua Police Department and that I work with some of the finest officers that are out there. And I'm very proud to have been a part of that, and still proud of the work that they do. You got a great chief and some fine officers. I appreciate everything that they do. So, but the bottom line is that I've always said that I wanted to be an example to my kids, and I got to do that. So I can die and be a happy man at this point. So, moving on, my next point is that we have a Plaza Review Committee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I know there are several people on it, but I would like to know if the commission is interested in appointing someone from each of your wards and mine to that committee. And I know Commissioner Hines, you are already on it, but I just would like to have some citizens on it so that they have a say as to what restaurant goes in there, and then they can't complain, or no one should complain when a situation like lock tenders happens. And no, lock tenders wasn't anybody's fault. They just decided they weren't coming back after the pandemic hit. But I don't want, I just want everybody to have, I want the citizens to have a say. Is anybody in agreement with that?
So are you asking for this particular with the restaurant, like an
With the
adjunct
Plaza,
type thing?
with just
or
for
for
the
them
Plaza,
permanently to be on
just
it?
for the Plaza Review Committee to add one additional member from each of our wards.
Just to clarify, the Plaza Review Committee only recommends to the city commission?
Yep.
So the
That's
city
fine.
commission still makes the,
We will still, fine, but people get a say though, so.
And I would say just as well, there's a lot more. Gary, do you want to explain what the committee does? Because it's not just reviewing the restaurants. I mean, there's some other things, just so
That's
people
good.
know.
Yeah, people do need to know.
And there are citizens on it already. There are at least two that I
yeah, the
know.
committee was formed back in, I think it was about 2008. It was required to be set up as part of the overall Plaza restoration project because the ownership didn't come into the city till, what year was it, Cindy? It was
2014.
14. Prior to that, it was owned by a conglomerate
An
of
investment
investors and so forth, and that was one of the requirements. So the committee was maintained after that. The members of it were appointed by me to continue on. And so looking at the banquet center, how it operates, approval of the caterers for that, the policies for, rental, what are the rental costs and things, all the setup administratively are all recommendations that they make. So part of what that they did too is review we've had, since I've been here, 2 different restaurants in there, and any applications for that restaurant space was reviewed by that committee.
Mm-hmm.
The leasing of the restaurant space still comes before the city commission
Sure.
for approval of the lease.
No problem. I'm trying to include as many people from the community to get involved with the city as possible. So, how does the commission feel about that?
I, for one, if it's providing recommendations, I'd like to hear that recommendation if we had a bit of representation from each ward, so then we kind of know everybody's had some input on that, in my opinion.
Yeah. How often do they meet?
Just when needed for
When
certain
needed.
things, yeah.
Something comes up?
Yeah.
Sure.
And how many prospective people are interested in the restaurant right now, in the lock tenders place right now?
I know it's been shown to about 8, and it's gone out to probably The request for proposal for that has probably gone out to more than 40. So I think the proposals are supposed to be back by June 15th. So we'll know who submits proposals, and those proposals then would be reviewed by the committee.
When do you plan on having a meeting with the?
I don't know yet. We'll
Okay.
have to see
Well,
on that.
if this is something the commission is okay with, then I'd say we would get one person from each of our wards into Gary within a week from today. Would
Can
that
I-
work?
Can I just ask a question? The relationship between them and the library, is there a relationship between this committee and the library at all?
Not really.
tenant?
Not really, because the library has a different type of lease.
Okay.
So no, it doesn't have anything to do.
clarification
Yeah,
purposes.
that's
It
good to
doesn't have
know.
anything to
You're right.
do with the library
I
operation.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
the building itself and the operations that the city runs.
How many people are on the committee now?
Let's see, there would be, I think it's 5 and 2 ex officio.
Okay, and that's two that are citizens now?
No, the committee's made up of 5 different people. Dan French, Fred Enderly, Casey, myself, Chris Smeezing. Cindy represents the finance part as ex officio, and Brittany Van Horn represents the banquet center operations as ex officio.
But you said there was 2 citizens already on it? as well?
Dan French and Fred
Yeah,
Edgar.
yeah, those are-
So that's what all I was questioning, is we talked about
And
one
they
from
have
each
been,
ward,
they were
and-
original members on there.
They've
so
been on there
they've been
since
on
the inception
They-
of it.
So I
Just-
just wanted to clarify what your thought process is. Are you looking at the 2 citizens now staying on, and then
Sure.
still an additional
And then
one
an
from
additional
each?
from each.
Or
Yes.
that they would be that representation?
They were
from that
original. I don't want to boot them
Well,
off.
and I
but-
think if I remember correctly, Fred was a city manager
Yes.
during this project, and Dan was very involved in it. So I think they have a huge ownership in just
Sure.
the
I
inception.
don't wanna
and
boot them off at
overseeing it.
all.
Yeah, and
That's
and
fine. I just
also,
wanted to clarify.
they have
I
that
would-
history of
Yeah.
the connection, so.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, more merry.
So is the deli separate? Or is it all?
Is that part of the,
considered one entity?
They could submit for, proposals could be submitted for both or either.
Okay,
Yeah.
Some might be, just be interested in the deli site,
yeah, sure.
and some might be interested in both. So they can submit proposals for whatever they're looking at.
Okay.
Does that have to be made in a motion, or is it just an agreement by us?
No.
All right, and so please, if you've got somebody in mind or thinking of somebody, submit it by next Tuesday so that he has it and we can send something out, the city can send something out to them, let them know when the next meeting's gonna happen. All right. Other than that, I want people to be safe. I want people to understand that I care about the city, and so does everybody sitting in this room. I mean, we're all here for you. At some point, we will get back to having regular meetings and we can see people face to face. But until then, please keep submitting questions and please keep contacting us because we're here to work for your behalf. So other than that, I've got nothing else to say. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Adjourn.